I would now like to introduce our last panel for the day, influencer marketing, using it intelligently. This panel will be moderated by Anup Sharma, who is an independent communication consultant, and joining him are Aditya Gurwara, Managing Partner, Services Kuros, Chandni Shah, Founder and COO, Connect, Manikanta Yadavali, VP Growth Trail, Rohan Tyagi, Vice President Strategy and Operation of Triller India, and Shalabh Atre, Senior Vice President Marketing and Digital, Rupeek. Over to you all.
Thank you very much. It's indeed a pleasure. And I think the earlier panel, we saw the use of technology and the words being there. So this panel, I think, is going to be more with this interesting people from the video app to the influencer marketing, that we discuss on how the role of influencer marketing is there in the current world. If you see today, I mean, for people who would have picked up the India Today's high and mighty power list, the name Carrie Minati, I mean, actually imagine being featured in the top 50. So just imagine a YouTuber today being listed in the top 50 high and power mighty list. But it's not new. I mean, if we go back, Bhuvan Bam, another of the YouTubers, one of the biggest influencers, he was taken by Google and YouTube to cover World Economic Forum. Now, what does this say? It broadly says that it's an always on world where everybody is connected through technology, through their phones, where information is literally available through Google, or we just need to pick up a phone and say something. The Alexa will actually give the meaningful content. So for this, the biggest challenge today is that today, are we actually as brand marketers talking to our customers in the real manner? This is a time when we say that the social and mobile powered media is actually getting the brands now to say what people want to say, not what the brands are there. So the brand communications we are seeing is rapidly shifting from telling the people your story to empowering the customers to tell their stories. And to tell the stories from the customers, I think the influencers are the ones who are building this. Straight away, I will come to Shalabh. Shalabh, just one thing. In the context of marketing, brand building, where do you think influencer marketing stands currently? Shalabh?
Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure to be on the panel. I think the beauty of influencer marketing is about getting influenced by advocates who are truly passionate about a subject, and what it does is that it's a real example of how power has shifted from large companies or small companies to consumers out there, right? And to people out there who are in the culture and who are almost, when it comes to real influencers, true third parties. So I think influencer marketing is authentic, right? Or is at least supposed to be authentic. And that to me is the beauty of it, which is, I think in the olden times, it was companies trying to influence consumers, and it was like a broadcast. And now it's more like a Charcha. It's not a broadcast. And I think that's the difference. The influencer is the one who puts something in the pond, and there is a ripple that happens. And it's really in the culture. So I think it's democratized marketing in a way when done properly.
Very nice, Shalabh. I mean, I think there's a nice way of saying that today at the CMO Charcha, you actually brought the analogy that a message which goes, how it actually creates a ripple effect. And I think one of the key things which we keep saying is what's trending now. I mean, what is there, what is being discussed today. So if it's about the CMO Charcha or the Aryan Khan, I mean, today, I think if you see the Twitter feeds, I mean, maximum of the tweets are with Aryan Khan's. So it's everything one message, and then immediately it says that, okay, what about the brands being influenced with that? So that's a very valid thing. Chandni, I will come to you. This is a follow-up to what Chalab said. Do you think that are brands giving this discipline of marketing equal recognition in compared to the what we say the traditional methods of outreach?
Yes, I think now actually I run a digital marketing agency. So I do believe that, and I'm talking to a lot of CMOs also all the time. So I think there's been a huge shift in terms of what their traditional strategies used to be towards digital marketing. And in digital marketing, there's a huge emphasis on influencer marketing. A lot of their, marketing strategies have shifted from what they were currently doing. Yeah. So I do see that shift.
And do you think that in terms of, since you are part of the agency, so do you think that from the budget perspective, is there any trend which you are seeing?
Yeah, I mean, we've had an influencer marketing desk for a really long time. It's been 4 years in the making. And I know initially how skeptical, uh, brand managers used to be when it came to allocating budgets towards influencer marketing. But now I see it's all upwards of crores when it comes to, really building that noise on digital and especially investing in influencer marketing. So budgets have increased, I would say like 4x of, what it used to be when we started our influencer marketing desk. So yeah, huge impact. And I think influencers have become so important to the brands now in terms of really kind of making that connection or that bridge between the brand and the final audience. It's really like they are the familiar face that audiences are connecting with, and whatever they are saying, they are being able to relate with their influencers lives and believing in the products and the brands that they're recommending. So they really are that bridge that's there on digital. Yeah.
Well said, Chandni. And I think you spoke about the budgets that it's increasing. But one of the key things which we are also seeing is that the budgets are increasing, but particularly with some of the influencers, uh, they are getting paid huge. And now there is a blurring line between the paid and the the paid promotion, or the and when while ASCII at one level has tried to come out with a regulation, but if you
Yeah.
see there is a blurring line, and it becomes very difficult for a normal consumer to know whether it is a paid promotion or it's a part of a tactical tie-up which was done. And the issue of credibility and trust comes, particularly from a brand perspective. Now it falls within the line of credibility, and that's where the issue of actually that how the importance of influencers whom you are tying up is there. And one of the key thing, of course, is that identifying and working closely with real influencers and authentic voice is a challenge, because we see so many influencers actually having this number of followers, which, I mean, if you do certain search, then they're fake followers. So identifying and working closely with a real influencer and authentic voice is a challenge. And brands unknowingly associates to some influencers, which can be problematic. Rohan, I would come to you and ask, like, okay, how do you think that brands should deal with this challenge of identifying who the creators are there who could actually influence the brand?
Thanks, Anup. Thanks for the question. So I'll touch upon the regulation part which you mentioned first. In terms of the recent ASCII guidelines we have seen. So it's actually a dilemma right now. The entire point of influencer marketing, or the purpose how it started, is that brands want to keep it really organic, and it's a place where users are interacting with the influencers in a very intimate or organic way, and which makes it tough to obviously measure, weed out fake influencers, and that's why we need regulation. But yeah, I think let's be careful what we wish for, because if it gets over-regulated, it'll be back to the typical digital media, over-measured and over-regulated. So I think we'll have to balance it out in a way, because as brand, we also want influencer marketing to be at the crux of content and communication, right? We don't want it to be a pure advertising communication. So I mean, it's tough, but yeah, if I mean, it starts with defining your ROI. There are tools, measurement metrics available where you can measure and evaluate an influencer marketing plan to a certain extent. But yeah, beyond a point, obviously, since it's such organic native advertising, there's not absolute attribution to it. Um, but yeah, I think that those are pros and cons of using influencer marketing as a challenge. Just because it's so organic, it's not absolutely measurable. But yeah, I think now the industry is evolving. It's not as nascent as it was, so you still see a lot of tools. But yeah, I think there's a long way to go, and yeah, we'll have much more templatized solutions to measure how the monies are being spent.
That's a very valid. In fact, I mean, good you touched upon the ASCII that it's still in a slightly nascent stage and one has to do. And you also spoke about measurement. So identifying and then measuring is important. So I'll come to Aditya. Aditya, at Chorus, like you all help a lot in the influencer search, etc. It's very important. So one of the key challenges for any marketer, any of the marketing CMOs or the brand managers are that typically, how do you find the right influencer or the right content creators who will imbibe with the brand values of your organizations or the whole purpose for which the organization is there or the whole purpose of the brand? How do you all actually tell your stakeholders that, okay, this could be the right influencers who actually imbibes the same brand purpose as the influencer? Aditya?
I was smartly on mute. I'm so sorry. See, search is, I think, one of the oldest things that has been part of the entire influencer marketing ecosystem, be it being done on Excel sheets or having large databases, which people have had. I think Chandni mentioned something where you just said she's been at it for 4 years now, so she knows the evolution of how this entire game has changed massively from where it was to where it is today. We at Chorus also have been functioning in this space for about 5 years now. And this first thing that we wanted to do was move out of the Excel format of working. Excel will always be important, or Google Sheets will always be important, nothing to take away from those softwares. But the biggest challenge we faced was the search is a key criteria, and every brand has its own understanding of what they want to do and what is their objective of using influencers. While today a lot of people talk about the big influencers being a lot of celebrities, the truth is that there are brands using local influencers in various small regions. There is a massive discussion on data fraud that we can always have whenever you have time. But coming back to the point of search, every parameter is different for every brand. A few key parameters on how we relate people is, of course, budget is one of the factors, because I might want to work with a top influencer like Avneet Kaur, but I might not have that budget to work with her. But at the same time, if, say, for example, if I'm a brand targeting women, I'll cut to 3 years ago when there were no data analytics available. You have a lot of brands, and brands today also, which I don't want to name, of course, on this panel, who are working with influencers who have over 90% male audience. Now, again, if they have a thought process as to why they're doing that is a different conversation. But if they do not have this information and then they're still doing that, that's a different conversation altogether. So we believe analytics plays a key role in understanding and picking the correct influencers. ROI is also a question, again, not in terms of, we can go into CPV and CPE later on. But today, ROI in terms of if I am spending X amount of money on a particular influencer, if not sale of product, am I at least getting that kind of views? Because imagine spending, say, 5 lakhs on a celebrity and getting 20,000 views. That hurts. And as an agency, sending that to the brand also hurts because in the report. So every factor, budget is a factor, the audience analytics of the influencer was matching that to the brand's analytics, location factor, demographic factors, each one of them play a key role. And then, of course, understanding how much of an ROI can that influencer give depending on the ROI and KPI set for a particular campaign. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that's quite a powerful. And of course, like you said, in terms of data, I mean, I think even in the earlier panel, we see that sometimes technology while it helps, but it also throws up a lot of numbers, and then it just takes into the next level. So Manikanta, I will come to you on that part. One is that because we just heard that in terms of knowing the effectiveness there. So there is one thing that's a lot of influencers actually they sometimes feel a bit pushy that, I mean, you keep seeing content coming there. So how does marketers and agencies equip with the right tools to just take forward what you said, that about how do you actually measure the engagement rates, the tracking the progress, or even the ROIs in a real way which matches with your requirement? Because unlike in the good old days of traditional advertising where you had a media plan and you took out the ads either on the television or the print or the outdoor, which was almost standard. Here, each and every creator or influencer tries to build in the story on their line. So the question is that how do marketers and agencies equip with the right tools to measure the engagement rates and ROI in this? Manikanta?
Thank you, thank you. And see, it should be much fairly easier, according to me. See, it's just that right expectations and a little deeper about how you have to treat influencer marketing as a piece is as simple as that, right? So, for example, let's say if you wanted to measure an ROI for a specific influencer campaign, if you're measuring the ROI for that from your performance campaigns or your organic metric, that will never be the case, right? So all you have to do is basically take influencer marketing as a piece where you're basically getting your brand visibility and take your brand visibility into consideration. See, most of all the platforms which we are doing our influencer marketings right now, maybe any of the platform have their own internal analytic metrics, and at the same time the brand gives you a brand lift study. Okay, so it gives you what is that brand lift that has happened because of your influencer campaign, and you can also check that by doing a small A/B test with a certain number of people showcasing your brand ad and a certain number of people not showcasing your brand ad, and see what exactly is the conversion percentage that is happening. And at the same time, there are two different aspects, right? So when you're doing a branding campaign, it also has to go hand in hand with your performance campaigns. So when you're doing a branding campaign, it's always your multiple touch points for the brand, where you establish multiple touch points, make your brand recall value higher in the perspective of customer, right? That actually gives you good boost for your branding campaign or influencer campaigns. That's how it is. And it also boils down to choosing the right influencer, and choosing the influencer who is actually an SME, who is basically a subject matter expert in that particular domain or a particular field, and at the same time creating that unique content, because you get very less number of eyeballs in terms of the amount of content that is bombarded right now, right? So at a specific point of time, when you're choosing an influencer, from that stage to executing a campaign, it all involves really say utmost care, where you choose the right influencer by doing your research in terms of whether the influencer is having that particular expertise to do it or not, whether the screen presence is proper, the kind of content it is created, the kind of say content or the storyboard that has to be narrated. And at the same time, when you're pushing the campaign, it should be very clear what kind of metric to be tracked, what is the brand lift study that has happened, and do a small A/B test in terms of seeing your numbers, where you showcase your brand ads to a certain group of audience, remove them from your other set of audience, and don't showcase the brand ad to them, and then retarget them and try to see if at all if they are giving you at a lesser cost, or your recall value is increasing. And based on that, I think you'll be able to definitely come to an ROI saying that okay, it has actually worked or not, has not worked, or the campaign. And when you come to a content, right, when it's for the influencer, your content which you have actually taken live, saying that which has been promoted, the engagement rates on that particular content helps you understand whether the user is engaging with you. If let's say if it is a video of a 30-second, what is the percentage of video that the user has watched? Is it only a 3-seconder or a 15-seconder, or he has watched 30-seconder? As after watching, has he clicked on it, and stuff like that? Taking this metric into consideration, you'll be able to definitely come to a conclusion where whether it is actually giving you a positive impact, doing influencer marketing is giving you a positive impact in terms of performance as well as in terms of branding, or say if the brand lift is happening or not. It should be fairly simple.
Oh, that's interesting perspective, because that there are tools like which you said that one can measure. It's just that from a user perspective. Yeah.
From what I believe, see, tools and analytic platforms, there are a lot of analytic platforms which have a multiple attributions and stuff, but it should be fairly simple with general analytic platforms that you use internally, or which are fairly available, like Google Analytics and Firebase and stuff like that. You should be able to measure your ROI very easily from that, when you know the metric very clearly defined.
That's that. So you mentioned about the videos, I mean, particularly like where people are seeing. So I'll actually come to what we say that, and if we see whether it be the reels or the new in the post TikTok era, what we see that the rise of the snackable content has really increased. So Rohan, I would like you to elaborate that how are you all seeing in terms of the video consumption currently in the Indian, and if you can be slightly detailed about the market, when we take the tier 2 markets or the tier 3 market, where are you seeing it going, the video part?
So the video consumption growing in India, I mean, that's not news anymore. We all know pandemic has pushed it further because people have more time. Better connectivity bandwidth is pushing it even further. The change in behavior in terms of format that users are consuming, that's been an interesting phenomena last couple of years, as we know. So the demand for shorter, more snackable content is increasing, um, primarily driven by growth in smaller towns, because those are the new users which are coming onto internet or video consumption in general. From urban user perspective, I mean, they're not the new users, they existed before. That's why we relatively see higher growth in tier 2, tier 3 towns. But I feel that the consumption behavior is changing overall. It also comes with that there's so much information overload because the formats are becoming shorter and shorter and the volumes are going higher and higher to it. It's very important. It becomes important for brands to how to clear that clutter. But yeah, I think it's just a consumer or cultural insight that we have in multiple regions, including India, that's the way consumers want to consume videos. They want an endless uh, recommended stream of videos, which is shorter in format, which has a high nature of discovery rather than intent. I mean, that's the shift we are seeing. There was a lot of intent-based viewing earlier, where users, they knew what they want to watch, and that was driven by search or them following certain creators whom they know that that's the kind of content they want to watch, and that's shifting to more discovery, where people want higher recommendations to them. They don't have a specific intent in terms of what they want to search, what they want to watch, or they don't have a specific intent in terms of they only want to follow these specific accounts, and they want to consume content only from feed of those specific accounts. So I think these are some major changes which are happening, and that's why we see a exponential growth in short form video or social video as an industry overall.
Interesting. So while you said that video is no more new, but typically in the internet space in India, we call like the pre-geo and the post-geo era. And again, I think now we are again at the cusp of an exciting moment with the new Google launching, working closely with Geo for the entry-level smartphones.
Right.
And I think that is something which is going to be really different, because if the pricing wise, if they put it at, I mean, 3K or 4K and almost like a free bandwidth, now it is going to be an exciting moment. And Shalabh, I would like to come to you that how are you seeing this fundamental shift in behavior in the last, I mean, I think we heard that in the pandemic it changed it. I mean, pandemic was one pivot, but now with the acceptance of video or the smartphone at the bottom level, literally, I mean, in India, we call the bottom of the pyramid. So how do you think that now from the brand perspective, how will you be able to reach out to this, and what is it going to be too scattered, or is it going to be more focused? And if that's the case, what is the approach which you all feel as marketers we should be taking?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, Anup. I think the most important thing for any brand is to own the share of mind, right? And owning that share of mind has two parts to it. One is to make sure that people remember you, and second is to make sure that people remember you for the right things that you want to be remembered for. Now, the reality is that owning the share of mind has become incredibly challenging over the last couple of years, because there is so much that is getting absorbed in the mind. And I'm sure there are great stats available in terms of how much of visual, audio visual stimulus is available to the human mind in India today, pre-geo, post-geo, and post-geo plus Google. And therefore I think it's a creative challenge, right? It's a creative challenge, which is that how am I going to come up with an idea that is going to own that share of mind? And it is not only about owning that share of mind for the category in which I'm operating, because if I'm operating, for example, in the space of credit, it's not that I am trying to own the share of mind versus another brand that is operating in the share of credit. Somebody might be seeing an ad of Cadbury next to it, and Cadbury is doing incredible ads. And how am I going to stand out? So I think that, it's become super important in my mind that the bar on creative gets raised dramatically, because the amount of money that one is going to be spending to do creative work and to put it out there for consumers, if it's not going to stand out, it's going to be quite challenging to get the ROI behind that. And therefore I think that is, and great creative work, whether we like it or not, people still love to watch movies. Why do they like to watch movies? They love it because movies are great entertainment. And while technology is there, no doubt about it, but I think what technology is forcing us to do as marketers and creative agencies is to really think about raising the bar on creative even more so, because there is so much for the consumer to choose from.
Well said. And I think one of the big challenge which I think the marketers are feeling is that unlike the days of when you used to work with a brand ambassador, or if the pre-days of what there was a model of this organization, of this brand, and then it became brand ambassador, to now when we say creators, and particularly with those who become influencers. So here one of the biggest challenge is that one flows with, you can't dictate, or you can't be telling the creators about how they should be doing their stories. So Chandni, I would like to take your views that how do you all feel that working with different brands and then different influencers, how do you all integrate the brand message without interfering in the creative side of the influencer stories, the way they create, but still building in the narrative of or the messaging of the brands? Chandni, if you can elaborate on that.
Absolutely. I think it's really important for the content that the creators are putting out to look genuine, because if it doesn't look genuine, then and it looks branded, then the audiences don't connect, really well with the influencer. So as an agency, we have a process where we kind of put down the brand guidelines as to, what the campaign is about, what is the messaging that we really want to put out there. And, what are the, like, please mention some of the brand, reasons or whatever, RTBs, when you're communicating. And then we kind of roll that out to the influencers. We give them the creative liberty to kind of work with it. We also jointly work on maybe scripts as to how, what are the important things they need to mention. But at the end of it, it's dependent on the creative influencer to deliver it in the most genuine way possible without it looking very scripted, because that also doesn't work. For the brand. And honestly, it's typically the influencers who send it to us before it goes live. So there are checks and balances which the clients also put in place, whether they've covered everything the brand needs to say and it's looking like a good piece of content, then only it kind of goes live. So it's a collaborative process between the agency, the influencer, as well as the client, to ensure that the right kind of messaging is put out, it's looking genuine, and it's connecting with the audience. All these three things are really important.
And how much do you think that all the influencers are open for getting the
very
message across?
In fact, very open. Yeah, they are. Only that when the brand side people kind of give changes is when influencers do get a little bit annoyed. And but other than that, honestly, they are very open to us collaborating with them jointly, scripting out the creative and them putting it out. So yeah, it's not a challenge from that standpoint.
So Manikanta, if you can say that now, one good thing is that the technology part, I mean, the tools are there, which actually allows the creative freedom to experiment, and a lot of the marketers and influencer marketing agencies, they like to work with people who are, I mean, the creators actually can do almost all the work themselves. Manikanta, just tell Manikanta, how much do you think that the tools are actually giving the kind of creative freedom?
Uh, Creative freedom, see, the tools, most of the tools which are available out there help the creator to mostly to helps them to make a decision in terms of what kind of content to be created and what kind of content should help them in terms of boosting the ranks or numbers up, right? So that's one way that it should. So in terms of creativity, I think every creator have a style, and they follow their own passion and style to basically create every creative unique content pieces that they create or generate. Everyone have a particular style in terms of they do it. It's just that these tools enable them in terms of moving them towards a data driven approach in terms of what kind of content it is trending and what kind of content should help them in terms of uh, getting the numbers up, or they match up with the trends, right? So because if you see, most of the influencer follow trends is a thing right now, right? So you have to these tools should actually help them in terms of figuring out trends that are running up there, so that they can actually use those trends to become more popular, or they should be included in those trends so that they can actually pick their profiles or pick their portfolio up. That's something that the tools can help with. But when it comes to creativity, I think it completely goes down to the creator in terms of how he can take the data and create in his own way, in his unique style, that the content has to be created and put it out there so that he can catch the eyeballs of the say end user, and help him grow his network or help him grow his follower base. That's as simple.
Very interesting perspective, because I think that's very important. And uh, coming from the other side of how we have seen even the news channels now, uh, from OB van to backpack news to now all the user generated content. So today we have the story creators and the news service providers actually going to the deepest of this earlier media dark areas. And with this technology, they can actually not only upload but actually do the editing and tell their kind of stories then and there. So that's very important. So one of the last thing which I mean, of course, this is a discussion like which they said the Charcha will keep going on. But one of the things which I would just want to touch upon is that some of the influencers keep posting a lot of promotional content, and the frequency is something which becomes too high. They feel that like earlier, if we used to say that every Friday a new Bollywood star is born, or a new Bollywood star is dead. Now, with every reel, you have a new creator who has a chance of becoming an influencer, and with that they know that the lifespan for a creator, they feel is very low. So make the most. Jab tak chal sake chala lo. And some influencers now, they keep posting a lot of uh, the content. Uh, so, Rohan, if you can just tell that, how do you say that, okay, working with the real influencers or real creators who are not bombarding, or even if they are bombarding, it actually works around. So how does one stay clear of such influencers?
Yeah, I mean, there's no right and wrong answer. Like on the influencer side, I mean, it's their content strategy, what they want to follow, and how they want to set up their content streams or feed across platforms. It's Yeah, I mean, of course, posting too much promotional content can be a problem, but I think more than that, the relevancy of the promotional content that they're doing to their set of audience is a bigger challenge. Like when you see a highly irrelevant promotion from an influencer, which as a follower you don't expect, you get turned off, and then you don't want to follow that influencer anymore. Relevancy and believability also is a problem when, as Chandni was mentioning, if yeah, if as per the brief, the influencer gets too carried away and in the communication, the believability is low. So that's another challenge. And yeah, I mean, it depends how creative they are in terms of making sure that there's the right kind of balance in their feeds of content, and yeah, the promoted post, and it stays relevant and its audience can believe in whatever they're trying to preach or whatever the brand message they're trying to convey.
Great. So before we wrap up, one last question, which again, I think we could have done a rapid fire, but we're doing. So regional content or national content or international content? I mean, this we are taking straight away from, if we say the Squid Games. Netflix says that it's one of the biggest opening which they had from Korean language making there. So the question, Aditya, Chandni, Manikanta, I mean, you all can go that regional content, national content, or international content. I mean, which do you think will grow more? Aditya, you can go ahead.
No, I think considering the country we're in, regional plays a very important role, because at the end of the day, we don't have a national language, and while English is a language that does break a lot of barriers in our country, there is something about local content that you can never defeat. Now, from a person, say, sitting in Mumbai and Delhi, Hindi, English, certain languages are fine. But when you go, say, for example, very east or very south, and regional language plays a very key role because it's about relatability as well. Now, I don't doubt the fact of what you said about Squid Game because it has broken all barriers and I watched it myself. But see, it's all about how content is consumed, and people there will always be, national will always have its own way, especially in terms of language, but regional will always and always play a key role, especially in a country like ours. International will find its way, but again, penetration is also a big question because, again, like you said earlier, the post geo era and this entire Google geo era that's happening, you're going deeper penetration into the market. Earlier, digital was a little more difficult to crack when regional never came up as a topic, especially in a digital conversation. Today, it's a very key topic. You have creators in who are killing it with content from in Bengali or in or in Tamil or in Kannada, and it's that hyper local relationship that they're able to build with that audience. And sometimes it's about the brand that wants to reach out to that audience, wants to work in a hyper local manner. So yeah, I think you can't dismiss any of the three. All of them play their own role, and all of them will be important. Like I don't want to speak on behalf of, say, Rohan on the spot. I'll just take a guess here, Rohan. But like even a platform like Triller again, short format. From if when approaching India, they have to keep an eye on the local side of things. TikTok came and went, but TikTok also had a very keen eye on the local side. And when I say local, I mean regional content as well, because sometimes people want to consume what they want to consume in their own homely manner, and I don't think that'll ever change.
No, that's a valid. In fact, I mean, considering TikTok, which you said, I mean, yeah, TikTok, they thrived on the regional and the local penetration. So it was there. Chandni, what's your take?
Yeah, I think it has to be regional, yeah, for India at least. I think the it's a very niche audience that looks at the international, and the national, it of course prevails, but regional is what's like really growing. If you look at today, even Amazon and Google, they're investing into vernacular, largely because that's what people, at large, on the new audiences on digital are kind of consuming regional content. So it's really important. I mean, I believe that the regional is the way to go, and it's the one that's going to really grow exponentially. Yeah.
Great. So for the rest of you, Manikanta, Rohan, Shalabh, I mean, I'll slightly change. Snackable content at one point of time, and we discussed about Squid Game. So we are at a funny situation where we say that, oh, we don't have patience. The customers won't be able to spend more than I mean, if with a goldfish, I think what 7 seconds or 9 seconds is that attention span. We said, okay, reels has to be that quick. To people actually binging on Breaking Bad, or I mean, the regional contents, whether we say Wasipur kind of movies now, which are there in Mirzapur format, or like the Squid Games. I mean, like you just binge. So the question, Manikanta, snackable or long form?
Both have its own merits and demerits according to me. So both content forms are really valid and both content forms are really great, but totally depends on the end consumer. Whatever the consumer receives or whatever the consumer likes, it's something that you have to provide when you're basically a platform like that. But for us, it's mostly not snackable. It's always long form or say valuable content is something that we believe in at Trend. So providing some content which can add value to the end consumer at some point in his lifetime, not maybe immediately, but he can learn from it and inculcate in his lifestyle and change his lifestyle is something that we believe. So I always have to go with so entertainment is also a very big part in your life, and it's very very important, which is proved by multiple other platforms. And at the same time, TikTok has broken the barrier, but lifestyle content really creates a value, and at the same time you can actually help a consumer or a user who basically is watching the content to make a really good lifestyle decision in his career and change according to whatever he wanted to be. So that's something that I believe.
Rohan, with you.
Yeah, and I have very similar response actually to both the questions, even your earlier one on international versus native. It's not one versus another. I can answer this from multiple point, but yeah, I'll answer from platform perspective where I am right now. Okay, so it's yeah, you have to choose what you want right now. Like from a platform perspective, the growth in terms of numbers will come from snackable content and regional content. Okay, that's like the base of the pyramid, as you said. But yeah, you'll have brands which want to engage with audiences on long form content because that message cannot be delivered in short form content. Similarly, there are brands who are looking for audience who's consuming international content and not consuming regional content. And if everyone is chasing regional, someone has to chase international, right? So, so yeah, I mean, yeah, you have to choose what strategy you want to pick.
That's interesting. Shalabh, I will come to you, but the question is going to be slightly different. Where
I
will you put?
prepared my answer for this one, but go for it.
Yeah, but I mean, like, so I mean, of course, we'll get a chance, like they say, the Charcha can keep going, and we can always the hashtag, I think, @Gully is using a CMO Charcha, so we can continue our discussions there. But the question for you, Shalabh, is that multiple creators, stroke influencers, or limited influencers? So where will you put your gold on?
I think multiple, because, as I said, I think the beauty, and I love the word creators, right, instead of influence. The beauty of this whole thing is that creation has got democratized, and the moment it gets democratized, I think ideas can come from anybody. I mean, who am I or any of us to decide where that idea, where that creativity is going to come from? So definitely multiple, simply because of the fact that every single day there is somebody who understands the pulse of people around them a little better. And I think the creators who will keep doing well are the ones who understand the pulse of what is happening in the culture around them and what are they passionate about. So multiple, because I think that is the beauty of it. I mean, this is not going to be an empire of a few people. This is going to be a kingdom of many people. So
Great, Shalabh. I think those are the golden words coming out from the rupee. I think on Dhanteras, early Dhanteras, I mean, that's a good way of, we know that where to put the money, but without saying that, I think almost everybody of you actually added value. So I would really like to thank Chandni, Manikanta, Rohan, Aditya, Shalabh. It was really interesting. Of course, we needed to keep it a bit short, but quite an interesting charcha. Nehal, over to you.
Thank you so much, sir. And thank you all the panelists. It was pleasure having all of you and getting to know so much about the industry. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You guys.
thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.